Good afternoon and welcome to Markets Today. I'm your host, Mbithe Mwema. One last day and we call it a week. It is Thursday. We have one more trading day on the NSE. Activity on the NSE this week has been pretty much muted. That has been the same case when it comes to corporate news. Not too much happening there. I will be taking you through the statistics that came through the market yesterday. Then when we take the break, we're still trying to get our heads around the final quarter of the year, month of October. What should be our investment focus be? Whether it's for execution at this time or at the beginning of the year, we want to get our head around what are the returns across some certain asset classes and how should you position for this. Let's start off by looking at what happened yesterday on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. We have the indices coming up with you in a few. Okay, so we have what happened yesterday. The NSE All Share was slightly up to 1.3 percentage points to 141.02 points. Key driver, anytime you see an upward movement or a downward movement on the NSE All Share, that really just symbolizes what is happening with Safaricom. Safaricom edged higher yesterday when it closed at 30.5 shillings per share. And we did see that have an impact on the NSE All Share Index. NSE 20 down slightly, 6.59 percentage points to 1,836. Let's take a look at what was happening on equity turnover. Turnover for the day was slightly up 5 percentage points to close the day slightly higher than what it traded on on Tuesday, I beg your pardon. Slight movement up to 220 million shillings, which was the value of the turnover, compared to 210 million shillings traded on the previous day. By virtue of turnover, which is the volume traded multiplied by the price, Safaricom dominated trades over the day, closing at a price of 30.5 shillings per share. We also saw a huge trade go through, not a huge trade, but we saw some volume, slightly above 1 million shares traded in Equity Bank at 35.5. The surprise mover for the day by virtue of turnover was Bamburi Cement, which is trading slightly above 22 shillings per share at the 22 shillings per share to the 22.5 shillings per share. 970,800 shares were traded in Bamburi yesterday. We have been tracking the performance for Bamburi Cement. The price went all the way up to the 25.26 mark, came all the way down to 20, and now it's straddling at the 22 shilling mark. The bulk of the trades yesterday, whether it was purchases or the sales, were dominated mostly by the local investors. The local investors were bigger sellers of the day, but we did see some slight movement from the foreigners when it came to the opposite side of the trade. Let's take a look at who were the top movers by virtue of volume. Safaricom, 3.27 million shares traded over the day. The average price for Safaricom was 30.5 shillings per share. Equity Group, 1.6 million shares traded over the day. Bamburi Cement, we had discussed that, 970,000 shares traded over the day. Cooperative also saw some movement, 680,000, and Kenya Power, 637,000 shares traded. Today's market is pretty much muted. We haven't seen this volumes similar to what we saw yesterday. And just before we came to market, Safaricom was dominating and we had seen about 1.5, 1.6 million shares traded as at the time we were coming in, which was about 2 p.m. today. Some of the other top trades we have seen over the day, APSA was also one of the dominant movers for the day, but this report we will be able to give you in full tomorrow. Let's take a look at what was happening when it comes to price movement for the day. The top price movers yesterday, small caps were dominant there. Olympia Capital, East African Portland, Stanbic Holdings, a bit of recovery. It was one of the top losers in the previous day. Umeme Limited, 7.48 shillings per share. CIC Insurance, 2.38 shillings per share, and it was up 3.5 percentage points. Top losers, let's take a look at what was happening there. Samia Africa, again, the small caps were dominating activity. The key one that actually stood out was Bank of Kigali, down 5 percentage points to 14 shillings per share. And Bamburi Cement, it was down 2.77 percentage points to close the day at 22.85 shillings per share with a volume of 970,000 shares traded over the day. That's pretty much what was happening on the NSE. Today's activity remains muted. When it comes to corporate news, it's a bit quiet as well, not too much happening. We take a break. When we come back, we try to get our minds around what to do when it comes to investment asset returns, who's done well, who hasn't done well, what considerations should you be putting in place if you want to allocate capital in this final quarter of the year, or if you are putting money aside to allocate in the coming year. We take a short break. When we come back, we will be joined by Mr. Reginald Kadzutu. He is an economist as well as investment consultant, and he will be taking us through this. Our SMS line is 20146. We would like to hear your thoughts. What are some of the returns that you made? What opportunities are you seeing at this point in time? And more importantly, what questions can we begin to answer to ease your investment journey? We will see you after the break.